Start the recording. Welcome. People are still arriving. I think we can start today's event. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to start today with a land acknowledgement. Welcome to today's Kaleidoscope event featuring Doty Horn. The CRC's activities related to sharing color knowledge take place across Canada, understood as part of Turtle Island, the ancestral homelands of over 630 First Nation communities representing more than 50 Indigenous nations and languages. We work to respect, affirm, and support, where necessary, the inherent treaty rights of all Indigenous peoples across these lands and waters. Our commitment to honoring the knowledge of ways of knowing and wisdom of Turtle Island's Indigenous peoples aims to contribute to the decolonizing work required today for moving towards a just society. I am Toma During, design professional, colorologist, and the Vice President of the Color Research Society of Canada. Can I advance the slide, please, Doty?
Yes, I'm trying to do that. There we go.
There we go. Thank you. The Color Research Society of Canada is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing color research and knowledge through cross-disciplinary collaboration. We foster the exchange of ideas among artists, designers, scholars, scientists, and industry professionals who share an interest in the study and application of color. Through dialogue and partnership across the arts, sciences, and industry, CRSC supports the development of a vibrant Canadian network engaged in meaningful color research and innovation. The CRSC proudly serves as the Canadian member organization of the International Color Association, the AIC. Before I introduce Doty, I would like to share our upcoming schedule of events so you can take note, mark your calendars, and sign up. Attention students, if you have completed a research practice-based project related to color, please submit your work for consideration for our 2026 Student Awards. The award includes cash prize and complimentary CRSC membership. See the full details on our Student Awards page at colorresearch.org. And I will post that link in the chat in a moment. The deadline for that is March 1st, so it's looming. Our March event will follow the CRSC's AGM in celebration of International Color Day. We welcome Verena Schindler as a keynote speaker, sharing atmosphere and identity, color in architectural space. In May, we present The Brand of You with Aga Artka and Jenny Bebels in an interactive workshop style format. We encourage you to post any questions into the chat, and we will get to them after Doty's presentation. So let's get back to today's speaker, Doty Horn. Welcome. We are very excited to learn more about fashion upcycling. Doty Horn is the founding director of Colorvoyant, a color marketing consultancy specializing in interior products since 2011. With a background in fashion and design leadership, roles at brands like Benjamin Moore, Formica, and Armstrong, she brings a unique cross-industry perspective of color trends. Doty teaches at FIT in NYC and actively contributes to the Color Marketing Group as a board member and mentor. Her global trend research and passion for fashion continue to shape her visionary approach to color and design strategy. Today, Doty invites us to explore fashion upcycling, a benchmark for the future.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, wherever you're attending from. Thank you very much for that nice introduction, Toma. And you're right, I do have a passion for fashion. It's an industry that I call home, and it's shaped my entire career. Actually, if you are dealing with any color and design, you are already in the fashion industry. So today, what I want to do is unlock a little bit about how the entire industry has had to reinvent themselves because of the pandemic shutdown has pretty much come in and done a number on the industry. So as we look at going forward, their adversity of textiles and production and how they go to market has led them to a more positive and thriving perspective. And today I'm going to try to unlock that and take note that whatever this industry is doing, you might look at that and say, how can I apply this to my industry? When we look at sustainability in the fashion industry, sustainability has been a buzzword in the marketing department for years. It's lived there for at least a couple decades. But when we look at sustainability in fashion, they have to take responsibility for what they're doing to the environment and also our lifestyles. And some of the buzz that over the years that you've seen out there, it's just, there's more than I put on this page. But basically, there are some familiar terms and there's some really new directional terms like de-wasting and untrash it. So there's a lot of kind of buzzwords that still linger out there. When we look at the structure of the fashion industry today and how they recycle, I'm going to start with recycling in the center part of the screen, and it's more of a transactional process. The goal is to repurpose the clothing in some way, shape, or form. And because of that, a lot of people transition their clothes. That has spurred on a mass distribution industry. When we talk about upcycling, that's more transformational. And it's more about taking the garment that you have, not throwing it out, but redesigning it for a longer purpose in your closet. That really, if you wanted to mass market it, I will give you some examples today, but it's really more limited distribution because it's a one-off kind of recycling. And then when you talk about downcycling, that's when the life of the garment is to the point of there's no return. So what they do is chop it up and use it for industrial applications such as insulation and mattress stuffing. The accountability in this industry has been quite stringent. Gotten a lot of press over the last 5 years specifically. And because the industry uses a lot of water, energy, and chemicals to process textiles and garments, they also contribute to the landfills. And about 20% internationally of the landfills are textiles. 92 million tons per year are dumped there globally. Every second, a truckload of clothing is burned for fuel to keep warm. Overproduction. You know, they historically have always overproduced and they end up not selling 30 to 40% of their production. Fast fashion is one of the biggest perpetrators of that. And because fast fashion and other companies and other industries use textiles with blended materials, they're very difficult to recycle. So hence, only 1% is really truly recyclable. If you look at your closet, you probably only wear 20% of your own clothing. And by 2030, the apparel industry will face a shortage of raw materials. So if we look at the landfill locations, I'm just highlighting a few of them today, but it's usually in the southern hemisphere or in warmer climates. And in Chile, the Guardian took its own initiative to send models down there to take the landfill garments that were still in their packages and with the tags on them and make a fashion statement out of that saying we can't keep doing this. What happens in Chile is that they dump these there, and because of the blended materials, it takes 200 years to biodegrade. And meanwhile, the dyes are seeping into the soil and making their way out into the ocean. So it's quite an issue for the industry. We go to Ghana and Accra, and from the UK, they dump about 70% of their waste in that country. 50% of what is there is unusable. It has spurred a secondhand industry with high demand there because of the poor region of that country. Novelty clothing is a major contributor, and you can see the brands there: Levi's, H&M, Zara, Nike, Adidas, and so on are contributors to that. This one surprised me. This is Australia. Thinking that they wouldn't have as big a clothing issue there, but they have surpassed the US market per capita. Every year, the average Australian buys 56 new garments. That's actually larger than the US, the UK, and China. And of course, the number of tons has exponentially increased there to 200,000. We go to Bulgaria, and what they've done is, because they burn their textiles for fuel, it's contributing to air pollution. 100,000 tons of clothing are discarded every year. And so the government has gotten together and made this textile hierarchy that is part of the Bulgarian Textile Association. It's changing the way they think and the way they look at disposing the end-of-life products, no matter what kind of product it is. This is starting a direction for that country to do that. They've also enabled a lot of collection containers to be placed throughout the country so that it makes it easier for the recycling. And then we go to Europe, and Italy is known in Prato as being the textile town of the country. And they have been in business since 1911, I believe. And they're known for recycling wool specifically, and some other blended and 100% material-based fibers. What you can do is take screenshots of anything that I'm showing you today, because I want the word to get out and to share to other people that this recycling is really a key, no matter what industry you're working in. And these are two links to BBC and also to YouTube to see more about the recycling in Prato, Italy. Now that marketing has been out there getting us to think more in terms of sustainability, the international legislation has started to be instituted, and then this is where the action is starting to happen. Looking at digital product passports, a DPP, you may have already heard about this, but it started and was instituted this year in January in the UK and the EU. By 2028, they hope they're giving them a 2-year grace period for all the manufacturers to get on board with this if they want to do business with that part of the region of the world. No more fashion waste is their vision. They want to demand circularity, and they're going to use AI to connect all of the product dots. The recyclability compliance, it will be stringent, and the EU is way ahead of North America. This also enables them to thwart the counterfeit goods, which is a major problem within the industry. The social compliance that they're going to adhere to is that all goods entering, and that's every garment that's made or every piece of clothing that's made, entering Europe has to have a digital product passport. No passport, no business. So what this also is going to do is expose the consumer to the knowledge of the product. And you can see on the right-hand side, just an example of what that DPP would look like. It's essentially going to be a barcode that you can scan, and then all of the information about that product, where it was made, where the materials came from, and gives more information and exposes it to the public. In California, they instituted this by 2027. I think they started this in 2024. And they gave a 3-year grace period to get the brands to be responsible for the end of the life of the garment, not just the store sale, because after the store sale, you don't know where that garment ends up, except when it ends up in the landfill. They also want the brands to institute take-back programs and to cut into the fast fashion culture. This will boost consumer circularity awareness as well. And again, the digital product passport will be instituted there. So California really is a benchmark. I lived in Los Angeles for a number of years, and anything that was instituted as a new enactment really made its way across the country. So we're going to start seeing this. Probably New York is next to adopt this because of the fashion industry being there. They want the digital product passports. They want consumers to be able to track the eco impact of the garment. They want the workers to have fair and safe workplaces and have standards for that, and produce only what you need. In the Netherlands, Bright Fibers Textiles has a legislation that manufacturers as 2025 that would integrate 7.5% of new textiles that would contain recycled fibers. By 2030, they hope to increase this to 16.5%. So there's some momentum going on internationally with this. So we've talked a little bit about the digital, but let's get into more of looking at what has been used in the industry. LVMH, as most of you know, is Louis Vuitton out of France, and they own almost everybody there. And they're using blockchain. And as we know, blockchain is a giant Excel log sheet. What it does is that it helps the supply chain track the production stages and where it goes in distribution. The data that is uploaded on this sheet is immutable, and so you cannot change any of that. Therefore, it's truthful information that is translated in RFID code or a QR code. Of course, we all know about AI, and that's coming in. It's a lot faster than blockchain, and a lot more people and companies are adopting this direction. Definitely because the consumer is getting a hold of it as well. The customization will enable, using AI, will enable you to produce orders only, to the orders only, instead of having that excess inventory. So it's zero waste for materials and time. It'll be a data labeling system that will make the operational part and distribution more efficient. And you'll be able to co-brand with the consumer and have a direct conversation between the two parties, so that where does the retailer live in this? So the brand will have access directly to the consumer. The emerging brands, like an artisanal designer, can use AI to make one-offs and handmade things and be able to distribute them more efficiently. And creativity, there's been some talk I work out of New York at FIT, and there's been a lot of talk about how the designers are a little threatened about it's going to take my job. And what it is going to do and helps them do is to do the boring stuff, like the rote things every day in a pattern making kind of situation. It also enables you to visualize it before you launch it, and design jobs will prop up unexpectedly in different scenarios. Marc Jacobs was one of the few early adopters of this, and this was his 2023 ChatGPT fashion show. He did not make any garments in his sample room. This is all virtually done. Note that you can watch this also on YouTube and on Marc Jacobs' site, but his avatars all have red knees, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know why I noted that, but I'm a color person, right? So, but it was interesting how he has been able to really kind of efficiently crowdsource what people like and then make the order toward that. This company is a genius. This company was started by Natasha Frank, and she is quite the maverick in the industry. Eon is a tracking platform that uses AI and other methods to regenerate the life cycle of the garment. They help with the branding, product identity, and think of it as a data birth certificate. And that the industry and the consumer can scan this as well. She was single-handedly responsible for the DPP and influencing Europe and the UK. There are many interviews with her online. If you can just Google her name, or she's actually posted on her website, Eon, with one of the incredible interviews that she's had. So you get more information about what she's doing. Another program that the industry is looking at is how to, have zero waste in the production site. This is an XD platform. On the red part is the conventional way we go to market right now. Look at the waste that it leaves after cutting around the pattern. With this system, we can now save up to 69% of the waste and material savings as well in the lower image in the bottom. Levi's, I remember in 2005 seeing their promotion about his body scanner at retail. And so they tested 4 different places in the US as to helping them understand how the female body is contoured and how they can gather the data way back in 2005 on this. So they've been a maverick for quite some time in the technology area. By 2019, and they made a prediction that custom size clothes from the consumer measurements will be the wave of the future. And you go to the store and it'll eliminate clothing sizes in 10 years. Whether it does or not, we have about 3 more years to really make do on their prediction. So we've seen the garment and legislation and a lot of what's happening technology-wise. It has gone into the textile and fiber area because this is the first place where you're going to see the innovation, because you don't have a garment without it. The current fashion methodology of going to market is growing the cotton, as an example, into yarn, spinning it into yarn and weaving it into fabric. Then it goes into the garment processing, and then it's at retail. End of subject. You don't know where that garment ends up other than the landfill or maybe in a thrift shop. The future is circularity, which is a closed loop system. So we want to close that loop system so brands will be responsible for the end of the life of the garment. And that's why the DPP is so important. And this will be for any product on the market going forward, but the fashion industry is making big strides in making that happen. Some of the companies that are already there, the 2 most notable, or 3, is The Real, and they're also doing upcycling as well with the recycling. H&M, which is a Swedish-based company, and ThreadUp, which is a recycling online garment company. Out of these materials, out of the textiles, monomaterials will be the wave of the future. Because of the blended materials, it's extremely hard to separate them and to recycle them. So monomaterials is going to be the key going forward. We're going to do it by fiber, and the biggest fibers that I'm going to highlight today are nylon. One of them is RTV. It's Return to Vendor, and William Calvert is the founder of this. It's a reverse engineered ecosystem where all products are designed to be recycled. They collect the nylon from the ocean, they are fishing nets, and make products that are recycled into raw material for the future products. He claims 100% recyclability with his fiber. Polyester. Sire is a Swedish consortium. They're owned by H&M, Vargas Holding, IKEA, and Volvo, and some others. Watch for the Swedes because they're putting a lot of money behind this, especially IKEA and H&M. Polyester is the biggest and fastest growing textile fiber, with 71 million tons produced annually and widely used across the apparel, automotive, and home interior markets. They bought a plant just south of Raleigh in Garner, North Carolina in 2024. You can see that they were founded in 2023, but in 2024, they bought the plant. And they are going to be doing a major recycling effort there. Their goal is to go international with this in different parts of the world. This one is Kintra Fibers. It is a bio-based polyester, and the company was founded by Billy McCall. He's a co-founder. It's a lab that creates this fiber out of corn-based, sugarcane, and algae microfibers. It's an alternative to fossil fuel fiber that's manufactured on the same PET production equipment and reduces the emissions by 95% compared to PET. Wool and Woolmark has been recycling for years. It is probably the most recycled apparel fiber in the world, offering an unparalleled circular solution. The Woolmark certification programs, recycled wool certification, focuses on products from pre-consumer and post-consumer wool products that have been reclaimed. They're then spun into new yarn, knitted into woven fabric for apparel or footwear. It's 100% recycled. So it's basically go back to Prato, Italy. That's one of the reasons they've been in business this long. The Supima cotton is from Cotton Incorporated. They've been around since the early teens of the last century. And it's a consortium of multi-generational family farms whose ethos is authenticity, quality, and responsibility. They use every part of the plant for 40% textiles and 60% oil and feed harvest. They want to place themselves as 39% recycled cotton to be used in every pair of jeans. And they use blockchain or AI for licensee honesty. And then they use an oversight platform similar to Eon, called Textile Genesis. And Textile Genesis and Eon fused together, they partnered together in 2024. So start watching this direction of the DPP once again for product tracking and testing. And then we come to cellulose with RenewCell. They have a new process of being able to, and they've branded it called Circulose. It's a dissolving, it's a branded dissolving pulp, and it's recycled cotton that is to make this pulp, such as viscose has been a cornerstone of this company's operations. Cellulose is the most abundant organic polymer in the world. It makes up of the cell walls of most plants and trees, and it's the purest cellulose is found in cotton. Circulose is a branded dissolving pulp that RenewCell makes from 100% textile waste with a high cellulosic content. And this pulp can be mixed with acetate, modal, lyocell, and other recycled fibers. Note that the first pilot plant was in Sweden, and then the second one is in China, and H&M and Levi's are strongly behind this direction. We come to Amber Cycle, and they're based out of Los Angeles, and they are positioning their Cycora into the activewear. It separates waste to the molecular structure, and then it's repurposed into a new product. They are positioning this and making some inroads in the activewear, which is based in the West Coast. Levi's 501 makes a resurgence. They claim that 97% of their jeans are plant-based with certified organic cotton, and it's dyed with natural dye stuffs. Their patch is actually made from wood waste, the ink that they use on their patch. And then this, they claim, is their foundation for the future. They started with this, and they're going to be, and it has brought them through to success over all these years. Now, this is near and dear to your heart. When I made this presentation last year, when I formed it, there wasn't a lot of information out there talking about how do we deal with the dye stuffs and the color going forward. So since then, I've done some more research, and I just want to share a few things with you that are really innovative, I think. This one we all get. We all know that the natural resources is where the color started, even from the cavemen times. So the earth pigments, the plant-based pigments, the microbial pigments, and so on, the food waste. And the energy efficient processing of these is going to be key. In Dutch Design Week last year, Petra Vishnova made a claim of crushing rocks. Of course, we've known this. This is an older custom. We're going back to those customs to do that. But she crushes them to the point of pulverizing them, and it can be used for screen printing processes. There's 3 different categories that I've been researching, and algae, bacteria dyes, food waste dyes, and plant wood waste dyes. Going forward, a lot of companies are getting their hands in these 3 different categories. I've listed 3 per category here. There are a lot more, and so if you'd like to take a screenshot and do more research, please do so. They're really interesting of how they're mixing this and trying to mass produce it. That is the issue going forward with natural dyes. But if they can mass produce this on a successful basis, then they'll be much more successful. Living ink it creates a pigment from discarded algae cells, replacing petroleum-based color. They use a life cycle assessment, an LCA, that takes repurposes the biomass waste, like algae, into sustainable black inks and pigments that replace traditional black color made from fossil fuels. A lot of you who are probably in the industry already know about this, since you do a lot of technical research. But this one is something that's making some inroads in the actual market right now. You can see some of the translation into packaging that they're using that on printing, on cotton and on cardboard. It's interesting to note that this is a UV stable ink. And if you do digital printing, that is a big thing. I was in the flooring industry, and we did digital based. We were the first ones to do the digital printing in the industry, and some of the color was not as stable. We cured it at every production stage, but still, when the sun hit it, it would turn green or it would turn purple. So it was something we had to work with, and we were one of the mavericks on it. So I learned the hard way, actually. This designer went to the Central St. Martin's in London. She is exploring color through circular systems, definitely, and she's calling this Infinity Blue, focusing in on the textile, which would be the denim, that most of the landfill is filled with denim. She wants to take that, extract the indigo dye that was used to make this jean, and bring it into a pulverized pigment form. And she wants to be able to, her goal is to replace 50,000 tons of synthetic indigo that's used to make the jeans in their production process. So she's making inroads with this, and also teaming up with another designer on her platform to look at Canada Goose's packaging waste and look and see on the reflective issues of how they can extract that and construct 3 structural color reflective materials using biomimicry. And they're used to be for reflective tapes and holograms for anti-counterfeiting. These pigments are biodegradable, plastic-free. Actually, they are not pigments, I'm sorry. They are biodegradable, plastic-free, and dye and pigment-free. So they have an iridescence about them, but you may be aware of this in Canada as well and have more information than I do, but at least I wanted to highlight this in the presentation. This by far I thought was so innovative. The DNA color from Colorifics was founded in 2016, excuse me. And what they do is they identify a natural color organism out in nature. They extract the color information from those organisms using a DNA sequencing. Then they translate that DNA sequencing into a code, which then in turn it goes into microbial pigments. Then they ship this pigment to the clients. Their clients on the production site will grow their color within 2 days, and then they use that in their standard dyeing process. This by far, I think, is so innovative. You will have natural color, but it's synthetically produced, or it's man-made produced, so that you don't interfere with the environment as much. So we get to the point where there's some emerging designers who are coming to the forefront, and in the recycle and upcycling specifically. This is Alexander Clementine. He is a designer of materials for integrative health and natural fibers. He is a bio-designer and takes medicinal textiles and makes them for the female body issues. His mother had a mastectomy, so she could not wear anything on her chest, and it was very sore. So he found a way to crush ground seaweed that's harvested every 4 years in Iceland with eucalyptus spun into fiber. This underwear reduces inflammation, hot flashes, menopause, and post-breast surgery. So it's kind of interesting how where there's a need, it'll be inspiration for creative solution. New Order of Fashion, which is NUF. It's a lab out of Eindhoven, Netherlands. They are connecting new talent within the industry. They're bringing together all of these heads about realizing new directions in the material process and the potentials that they could have in the industry. There's an understanding of the process improvement, so it's more of a consortium. They are highlighted also at the Dutch Design Week, and stay tuned for more of them. You can get on their mailing list as well and hear about all of the things that are coming to fruition in the Netherlands. In Japan, the zero waste ethos has been there for centuries. And Tomo Kishida has a 20-minute video on YouTube that is fascinating. What he does is source the textiles that are going to be thrown out in the dumpster. And he brings them back and strips them into just strips and then spins them into yarn. And he's based out of Osaka. And then he weaves this yarn on the loom and then makes it. So it's he does everything from start to finish. This is his result and is beautiful. The results are refined and just so artful in how he's repurposed these rags. And I think the suit coats they started at $1,200 and they go up. They're not inexpensive for the workmanship that he's put in. But again, check out what he's able to do in his processing of upcycling. From Italy, we have Morphing Online, and they married vintage with dead stock textiles. And they have a limited series that they introduce in the collections. Once they sell out, they sell out. And so they call them drops. And I remember being in the fashion industry in Los Angeles, and every time the terminology drop would come up, that meant it was discontinued. Today's world, it means it's going to be dropped into the market as a new introduction. So they're curated and they use artisanal techniques and people to help them repurpose the found textiles that they are sourcing. In Brooklyn, it is the capital of the US for design, and YY Reborn is taking men's suits and repurposing that. On the right-hand side is the half and half blazer, and it's belted with a measuring tape. And since my days at FIT, I've been getting more information about the DTech Lab, which is an arm of FIT, but it's not owned by them. And what they do is connect the students with the industry in New York. And they have come together with Uniqlo, which I'm sure you know the brand. It's an international brand. And the global business development person was at a function that I was attending, and he was talking about this. And what they wanted was a project challenge where they would come up with 3 students that would design their returns, their damaged goods, and there were 45 boxes that were shipped to FIT. They all went through them and they came up with 3 collections, and you can see them here. They called it Re.Live project. So again, this is mass producing an upcycled concept of turning something that was damaged into something that is saleable. They actually thought that if there was a bestseller out of this, that they would be able to reproduce these quickly. But what the charge was is that the designers had to design something that was, it took them a half hour to make the garment. In reality, it took them 45 minutes to make it. So for efficiency, they needed something really, really simple, and to keep to the ethos of what the Uniqlo brand is all about. This is not necessarily fashion, but it is. It's Yamaha's answer to a product taking bits of wood that are normally not used for the guitar making, but they put it in there to see if this would be a viable way to take their waste and repurpose it. Diara Blue is a mathematician. She started her own business where she would take her vectors, which is at the top image, and color between the lines that she created. And this was the inspiration for the fabric print that you see to the right. She built a brand for a circular future to start with, and then she would only produce on demand. And so she would crowdsource it first, as you can see below. And this is some of her research that she's done. She's not into the timing of the industry where you do a spring and fall introduction. Her designs and direction is timeless. So any client who works with her will come in and say, I want that fabric in this body, and can you make it for me? She wants 100% recyclability, so or little waste if she can, if she has to. And she uses no buttons or zippers because they are not recyclable friendly. So she bridges both upcycling and recycling together. The mother of recycling, upcycling, and just this whole ethos of fashion sustainability is Eileen Fisher. She's been around for quite some time, and since 2009, she has sold over 2 million pieces that have been donated or bought back by her and her company. And it's part of the vision that she has in her entire company for a future without waste. So as we get to our last section of retail and who is out there contributing to the landfills and also what they're doing about it, is that the vision in the entire industry for 2027 is to reach $185 billion. Most of what they sell are new plastics, which is 88% of it is petrochemicals. So they're really slow to adopt the true recycling. But in the last couple of years, you've seen a lot more of the retailers, and because they are a vertical operation where they make the garment and then they sell it. You're going to have Shein, H&M, and Inditex, which is Zara is part of. They will be investing a lot of money behind this. Shein is based in China. They have doubled their business since 2022. The pandemic threw them into this, and they're all online. They own 50% of the fashion market, in the fast fashion market. They are 67 times larger than H&M. and 30 times larger than Zara, which is amazing. H&M is proactive, and I think they're the most proactive out of all of the fast fashion retailers, along with IKEA. Again, from Sweden, there's a lot of emphasis put into this circularity ethos. And they will put their largest money against garment recycling, research startups, and consumer awareness. They are second in position at 16% fast fashion. Inditex, which owns 9 companies, Zara included, and by 2030, they would like to have 20% of their product fiber in whatever they sell in the new next generation materials. They are third position at 13% fast fashion. And the Gap has a vintage collection where they were taking back their old Gap things from the 70s and the 60s, and they're repurposing them. They've collaborated with vintage guru Sean Wotherspoon, and they make seasonal vintage introductions. I have yet to see this at retail, but it is being promoted to focus on the heritage and younger consumers today, because the younger consumers are thrifting, and a lot of fast fashion is still affordable, but they are shopping the thrift market. IKEA is part of the Inca group. By 2030, they want to put $1 billion recyclable investment into textile and mattress and plastics. They also want to look at recycling their wood because of their furniture, of course. Whatever they sell has a fee, especially when they deal with the EU. There would be a retailer fee that the money for each piece of clothing that's sold will be going toward sorting and recycling. They also have teamed up with Mud Jeans out of the Netherlands. The Klippen sofa uses a circular denim cover, and it's made from post-recycled jean cotton. Mud Jeans also leases garments to consumers with a replacement offer each year. Repairs and they repair and they resell and they recycle old jeans. And then ThreadUp, as I mentioned earlier, they are an online, strictly online recycled clothing operation. The entire thrifting area and the recycled projection and global projection for 2027 is reaching $350 billion. Textile recycling is $8.5 billion, and they use an upcycling platform possibility for their future direction. Goodwill owns a big chunk of this market, with Americans throwing away at least 70 pounds of clothes per year. And again, I mentioned that thrifting is gaining momentum with all ages now, and most of them are independent thrift stores. And all said and done, all of what's happening in the market, we can't do it on our own. So we need a consortium to come together for good. So Fashion for Good has started, and this movement toward a circular and sustainable future. It's groundbreaking. They have a rich network of experts, and they're all there for the systemic change to happen. And I want to close with this. This is the ultimate piece of clothing. It's a high ticket, cost to all of us, but it's wearable for 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 weeks, and years of recycling. You can trade it in, and you can get refinancing for that as well. Every bit of it is recyclable. Each car has a VIN number, which is a product DPP, and the product tracking can be done because there's computers in the cars today. And then the brand allegiance and recognition has been built. So with that, I want to leave you with fashion is what you buy and style is what you do with it. And thank you. I hope I've inspired you and kind of opened your eyes to a new way of looking at recycling and the future.
Thank you so much for sharing these insights on fashion upcycling. That was very informative. So next up is time for Q&A, and if you've not done so already, please post your questions into the chat. Let us turn on our mics and our videos and have a conversation. I've posted a few of the links that Doty was talking about in the chat, and anyone wants to follow up on anything there? I have a question for you, Doty. How can you mass market upcycled fashion?
Well, that was what I touched on with Uniqlo. You could do that. And I know Real Real is working really hard at taking back your garments and then they redesign it and then resell it. So it is a platform that I think you really do need that platform in order to be able to do that structure in which to do it. Otherwise, it's a one-off and it sits in your closet. And then my question to the industry is that if I take a Dior jacket and redesign it in some way, shape, or form, well, Dior first was the creative juice around that style. If I resell it, then who's responsible? Who gets the money? Do I have to pay them a stipend for that? So it's interesting and that the legislation isn't quite out there yet. But that would be one question I would have for those people who are entrenched in, especially Real Real and Uniqlo and those companies. Uniqlo can do it because they created the garment. So they don't, whatever they do to refashion it, they get the money back. But Real Real, I don't know how they handle that. That would be a question to ask them.
Sarah has her hand raised. Sarah?
Hi, yeah, thank you for that. Very interesting. Now I have to say, I'm coming from the art world. Um, so I'm on the flying edge of recycle, reuse, reduce for sure. I seldom buy new clothes. Most of the clothes I have and wear with pleasure are recycled clothing. Um, and so I'm just going to step onto a soapbox for just a moment. I have to say I'm taken aback and I'm even distressed that you would end your talk with an image of a snazzy little sports car, because I feel very strongly that one of the ways that we really need to work our way out of the chaos that has been caused by essentially by industrialization is to cut back on individual vehicle use. I feel that very strongly. I live in Canada. I'm living in a city where there is now a couple of feet of snow on the ground. I walk, I take the bus, it's fine. And I'm not young, and I have arthritis in many of my joints, and it's all fine. So, I'll step off the soapbox and thank you again for your talk, but it does distress me that a talk about fashion upcycling would end again with a kind of sexy, uh, kind of zippy looking picture of a sports car in a sunset. I mean, I just find that baffling and upsetting.
Yeah, I'm really stressing a point about the creative side of the design more than the actual product itself. But the car industry has been doing this for over 60 years. So they've built in it's more about that whole concept of how does an industry rebuild themselves into a system where you can send it back, no matter what the design is. You can send it back and be able to either profit from it. If you want to downsize your own closet, you go to a resale place, consignment store, and you don't get very much, but at least you get something back. So it's more about that, but I appreciate your perspective on that. I think it's well taken, but it was more about this is an industry that's already been there for years. and we just don't look at it that way. We just buy a car and go out and whatever the reason for buying the car is. Also, as we all know, color is the number one influencer of any product and anything in the world, always has been. So, and it, to this day, archival color is that people want to preserve that color, the way that building was painted 200 years ago. So there's a whole market around every bit of aspect of color, but it's not given, I don't think it's given its due. I think the color is the most misunderstood category out there in the design world.
Thanks, Doty. That's a really helpful answer.
Yeah, yeah, but I appreciate your comments.
I have a question. I'm wondering if color can somehow be used to shape, people's perspectives, like if they're bringing in new bio color technologies or using fungi or something, then, your palette will be dictated by something that's totally different as opposed to just, I don't know how colors marketing gets decided, but like, is there any kind of move to, use color as a way to help shape people's behavior in a positive sense?
Um, I think the colors that are chosen, if you were a color psychologist, you would say, why did you choose that color? But just the fact that they chose a color means that they are either a warm person or, or a cooler person or whatever. I mean, that's generalizing, but I think that people, like, let's go back to the car industry. The only cars you really can buy today without having to pay any extra for the color is black, white, gray, and red, at least here there in the States. And it used to be that you could get, a gold and a green and whatever for no extra charge. But the fact that they have to buy pigments, and that's where it's being driven, that the companies, it costs them money to buy the yellow and to buy the other colors in pigments, and they have to interrupt their production line. So they're really driving a personality, a person who wants a custom color. They're going to pay $5,000, anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 extra or more, depending on the brand. And so they're getting, from a business standpoint, they're getting a check of those people who order the custom as to what their personality is or their income or where they live. And that's how they track them. I don't know if that answers your question, Robin, but
yeah, I don't know, like Smarties changed their dyes, several years ago and to natural dyes and non-toxic. So there was a palette shift, and I think people, were happy to embrace that. Or I think that happens in some breakfast cereals too. I'm not a cereal buyer, but
yeah.
just I don't know, raising awareness of the toxicity of some pigments and dyes, and if we shift away from that, can we make more informed choices, support those markets that are doing that.
Yeah. And it's also, we have to be mindful of the greenwashing that goes on. It's just because they use an organic pigment, their process might be very, very toxic. You just don't know how that's done. And they know that they can use that in their marketing, that we use, organic pigments, but it's processing. It's like rayon is tree pulp. It's half tree pulp and it's half natural, and it's processed chemically, man-made. So that rayon is half and half. And that cellulose that I mentioned is supposed to be 100%. Actually, I take that back. I'm sorry. It's about 72%. And then they mix that with modal, which is synthetic. So it's not truly 100% yet, but they're taking a large percentage as an organic substance mixed with a man-made substance.
Right.
Mm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Those are all the questions. Then I'd like to throw in one more thing. Oh, sorry, one more thing before we sign off. The CRSC is always seeking volunteers to help run the organization. It is Canada's only non-for-profit interdisciplinary organization dedicated to the study of color. And we need your time and expertise in running the programs members like you benefit from. If you would like to become a member at large or join a committee, please reach out to me at vicepresident@colorresearch.org or go to our website, and the link has been previously put into the chat. One more reminder for students to check out our student awards. Deadline is looming, and that link is also posted in the chat. And in closing, I would like to thank the behind the scenes team that helped to bring this colorful events to you. And thank you again, Doty, for all of your insights. And I wish everyone a colorful day, a colorful weekend, actually. Friday.
Thank you, Toma. Thank you, Doty.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Nice to see everyone. And yeah, see you next time.